This is the first morel I found this season, and you can see its friend over here is not as pretty. This one is definitely in the good range. It's only a little brown around the edges, still perfectly edible, as opposed to this. The bugs totally got to that first. Do note, as you look at these, that this is an odd area to find a morel in because it's in the full sun. Morels tend to prefer shady areas in the woods, but as you can look, this set of morels is actually not too far from our woodshed and the woods where we have a lot of dead and decaying logs. And so because of that, this actually isn't as odd of a place to find these little tasty treats as you would think. And you can see how hard they are to spot. I just moved away for a second and it became really hard to focus back in. And that is because they blend into the leaves. I'm sure there's more than 2 of these around here somewhere. So this is what you're starting to look for when you look for morels. Dig around the base a little bit to expose the base, but you don't want to pull a morel up because you want to leave the mycelium intact for later. Go ahead and cut through. Some people do find it easier to use kids' scissors to cut through a morel. That is also an option, to use children's scissors instead of a pocket knife, but either are perfect. And you can see these are kind of small. Go ahead and pick one up and you can see they're not very big in someone's hand, but they are definitely morels and we are ready to go. So when you're looking for morels, you want to look at woods like this. You can see the woods in our backyard have a lot of dead and decaying wood. You also want to look for a lot of poplar and ash trees. Our woods have a lot of tulip poplar, which you tend to find morels near. And you know it's time to start looking for morels when the soil temperatures reach above 55 degrees. And one of the ways you know that is this flower right here. This is bloodroot, and it only blooms when the soil temperature is warm enough for a morel. So that's one in full bloom. And you can also see over here this smaller one that's just starting to peek out. And that is how you really start to know. My husband and I also started to notice it was time to look for morels because we saw turkeys. So here we have a double header. So we have this slightly older morel, and you can see it didn't even cut cleanly through and something's been eating it. I'm actually going to toss this because the spores will still be here and perhaps the squirrels might even eat it. I know some of you might say sacrilege, but I'd rather leave it for the squirrels and get more morels next year. I wouldn't have even cut it, except it was really necessary to get this oddly shaped and perfectly intact specimen right here. Looking at the color, this is kind of a light brown, gray, golden. There are a couple of different species this could be. So once I get close enough, I'll tell you, but they're definitely in the Morchella genus. While they are an invasive species, finding wild onion popping up like this is also a good indicator that morels will be nearby. Just like the more local ramps, and here you can see a ramp, this leaf right here pulled up. Just like the more local ramps, wild onions pop at the same time as morels. So other unusual things you might be looking for this time of year are the moss sporophytes. This is the reproductive organ of the moss, but it tells you spring has sprung and morels are here to be found. Unfortunately, conditions are a bit dry today, so the mushrooms we've already filmed are the ones we've got, but hopefully the rain that is coming up, and do note you need those moist conditions for morels, will help us find more. So just be on the lookout for all these little telltale signs like these sporophytes for morels to be found.